right, Stochastic, here we go. I see somehow I'm on the Saturday Strategy Show, but it doesn't seem like it's attached to the right YouTube channel, Matt. How could we possibly do that? We say Saturday, but I see it says 4/7. So, yeah, good times. Let's go see if I can chase that down. How are you doing on this fine 3-game Saturday slate?
I am good. The sun is out here, which always thankful for. Yeah, weekend just getting started. Started it with you. Couldn't ask for anything else.
That's what I like to hear. So let's we can hear. Can we see? Let's find out here. There we go. So yeah, we'll go put this link in the other link. And sorry about that, but there's a little snafu here. Live on this stream because I can't talk and type at the same time. But there we go. People will find us. You know what's also nice? This is going to go out in podcast, and the podcast doesn't care what this came in on. So apologies for the back end gaffe, but that's all right. That's all right. There's always something on the weekends. But we just have 3 games today, Matt. Of course, there's a little basketball going on. Am I to understand some college something or other? A little falderall there today. We've got hockey, NASCAR, tennis, League of Legends. The whole gang is here. The whole gang is here. How did baseball go for you last night?
Baseball went decent and not as good as you, which I think we're about to talk about. But I stacked the Braves and I stacked the Red Sox. They were fine. I mean, you needed Texas to really win anything. I used Brady. I ended up on Brady Singer, Eric Fetty, and Cutter Crawford as my main pitchers. They were all decent, but I don't know if there was any pitcher on that slate yesterday that you needed. How about yourself?
I ended up I will send this link to Seth because Finn Hater, my Twitter enemy, my best Twitter enemy, he hates when I talk about 9-hole home runs, counting the same as all other home runs, and he hates when I take a hitter against my pitcher. And on Yahoo last night, last man in was the catcher for Boston, and I happened to be playing Canning. So I was like, whatever. I don't have enough money to do anything else. He's probably going to go hitless, so just do whatever. He hits a home run as my one-off. Sheets hit a home run as my one-off, and they ended up cashing despite having Strider and Canning as my pitchers. So that was always fun. Baseball is just weird like that. It's one of those oddities. I mean, everybody was all fired up to get Strider. I mean, he's got the ungodly K rate. He's a phenomenal pitcher. And then he gets, 1 fantasy point or -1. I can't even remember. You never know what's going to happen with baseball. That's the beauty of it.
In one of my lineups last night, this was not going out of my way to do this. I used a hitter against my pitcher. Again, I told you I stacked the Braves. They're expensive.
Yes.
Even though I didn't use expensive pitching, in that one lineup, I had Cutter Crawford and I think Fetty. So there's literally nowhere for me to go down there. Those were the 2 cheapest guys that I was willing to play. Ended up having to play Miguel Sano at first base there. Old pal Miguel Sano was the cheapest guy. He ended up with 13 fantasy points. So sometimes if you're pigeonholed into a corner on a small slate, I didn't want to rebuild my whole lineup. So,
Yeah, and don't worry, we'll get into basketball here, all 3 games that we have. But the other fun thing about that is the pitcher isn't in the whole time. Pitchers go less and less. They're going to get a couple at bats against the bullpen, et cetera, et cetera. So it's one of those where in a small slate, just weird stuff happens. And hey, if your pitcher doesn't throw a no-hitter, at least your guy gets the hits, right? That's kind of the theory behind it.
Yeah, just on that note, you're not rostering pitchers, most pitchers at least, in hopes that they're throwing complete game shutouts.
Right.
They're going to give up something. I don't go out of my way to pick out bats against my pitchers, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world either, like some do. So sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to get we've got our projections and stuff up. I'm going to fire up. Let's do FanDuel. We'll have some fun with that. We'll do the little lineup generator here. because that's fun. We're sponsored by Sleeper today. Key things on Sleeper. You get up to a $500 deposit match if you go through the YouTube link in our YouTube description. I will also drop in the landing page. Actually, let me just show you this online here because it's fun. So we have this is, I think, is one of our least utilized pages, but we have all of the join and deals here, so you can see where you can get different bonuses, etc. under deals, calling out the specific states that just come online, etc. So that's pretty good. But I'll drop this link into chat here as well. And then we've got 3 games. There's 4 total today, but we're only going to be looking at the 3 that are on the main slate. A couple teams on back-to-backs. Almost everybody plays tomorrow, and then the NBA takes the day off on Monday because that will be the college national championship game. So we'll kind of talk about the different things that we see, who's on the back-to-backs, etc. But Matt, we're going to start off here with game number 1 is the Detroit Pistons at the Brooklyn Nets. We have a back-to-back and a 3 and 4 here for the Pistons. They don't play tomorrow. They do play on Tuesday. Last night they lost in Memphis, 108-90. Jaden Ivey was the only one who played over 25 minutes. He played 32 minutes. They're without Fontecchio, who has missed the last 11 games with a toe injury. Cunningham has played 2 of the last 5 games or something like that. He's dealing with knee soreness / asset management. Taj Gibson, I doubt we'll see him again. He's doubtful with the hamstring. And then on the other side, Brooklyn, DSJ has played 1 of the last 5 games and only for a handful of minutes. That's Dennis Smith Jr. He's dealing with the hip issue. Cam Johnson, doubtful along with him. He's dealing with the sore toe. Brooklyn played Wednesday, but they do play tomorrow. So while it's a bit of an island game here, they're one of the few teams that does play again tomorrow. What do you like, considering this game is 1/3 of our year?
Man, starting off, just add another embarrassing loss to Detroit's resume this year. It's one thing to lose to that Memphis team. It's another thing to get blown out. So there's that. As far as tonight goes, hard to key in on Detroit because, again, we don't know about Cunningham. I'm kind of going to presume that he doesn't play, in which case you got guys like Jaden Ivey that would look really good again. Just hard to speak on and know for sure as of right now. Obviously important news to keep your eye on as the slate gets closer and we get more news closer to lock. Brooklyn also looks good, namely their quote, I was going to say their big 3, but that doesn't even work. Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton, Mikal Bridges, and throw Dennis Schroeder in there also, all picking up a bunch of ownership. And it makes sense. Not because these guys are fantastic plays on any given night, but because they're in a great spot against Detroit and we just don't have a lot of options tonight. So Brooklyn, as of right now, without having news on the slate, one of, if not the most appealing team on the slate. I think you could quibble with that. Well, no, the Lakers aren't even on the slate. So Detroit definitely the most appealing team on the slate to me, at least.
Yeah, and it's going to be this will be one of the ones where it's kind of I think we're going to have to see who's available, who's playing, etc. And even then, the second trigger on this is minutes. What's going to happen? I mean, last night, nobody played a ton of minutes there for Detroit. So, is it going to be fool's gold again with Malachi Flynn or somebody else dropping 50 NBA points? Probably not. But those are the types of players we're looking at on such a thin slate, which makes this a bit of a challenge here. So let's see. What do you think about Brooklyn here? Nick Claxton and Jaren Duren, that's going to be a fun matchup. But, if they each are only playing 28 minutes, is that going to be enough to move the needle for you?
Probably, just because it's such a small slate. I like Claxton here. I mean, the ownership's there, so it's not like a sneaky play, but he looks good. I think the best player from Brooklyn is Cam Thomas, 2nd overall in the boom bust tool. I think that tells you all you really need to know. Ownership is basically right in line with its optimal percentage. He's my favorite piece. Claxton, Bridges, and Schroeder are all comparable. Schroeder's the cheapest, but also the most overowned by a lot. So he's probably my least favorite. Bridges, I mean, you know what you're signing up for at this point with him. I like Claxton's upside in this spot. So I think I'd go Thomas, Claxton, Bridges, Schroeder. That's the order of guys in which I like from Brooklyn.
Well, Dorian Finney-Smith is coming in on 91.3% of the lineups that I just ran in the 150 on the Sims here. That is likely because of his delightful salary tag. So I wanted to show you guys, here's something that's fun with the Sims here. You can do global exposure caps now. Now, this is very helpful in baseball because I typically don't ever want to play more than 20% of anybody. And then I can go in and tweak the pitchers as I see fit. But for someone like Dorian Finney-Smith, maybe we say, I don't want to play more than 50% of anybody. And you can come in, redo this, and it'll give you your 50, cap everybody at 50, and you can go look and see what happens there. So see he's at 50, but you can go tweak these around as well. I believe this will work for a personal exposure cap. Let's find out. I was playing with this last night, and I thought I figured out how to make it go. There you go. See? Oh, no, I guess it's still going to be the global. Anyway, I wanted to see if there was a way to supersede the global. I know, I believe you can do it on the under, excuse me, which is another way to use this stuff with your help. So you can see I pushed Dorian Finney-Smith down, so now he's fallen out of it. So it does work on pushing it down more than the global cap. We can't do it in the other direction because, hey, it's a global cap. But that is something that I like to consider. So last night I was doing that with some of the Memphis players. I put like a global cap of 60%. And then I went in and I didn't want more than 40% of any of the Memphis players because I wanted them to be spread out. So I pushed each one of them down to 40. And I got capped out on all 8 players basically because that's just how it was working. But that's one way you can kind of maneuver this stuff. The Sims are a lot of fun. It's a very powerful tool. We're constantly adding new things to them. So it's important to try different things out or ask questions in the Discord. Where we can give you specific examples and walk through it. There's also office hours that helps cover this as well. All right, so Dorian Finney-Smith. Boy, it's going to be one of those days, Matt. It's going to be one of those days. So you ready? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say about Dorian Finney-Smith, Mr. DFS himself. I don't like it, but I get it. He is the highest player priced under 6,500 in the boom bust tool. So I think that kind of shows you, at least as of right now, there isn't a ton of value. So he has a serious place on this slate. The more value we get, I think he gets washed out a little bit, but cog in the machine type, if nothing else.
That makes sense. That makes sense. All righty. So let's hit our next game here. Shout out to all 100 people watching. Appreciate that. Hit that like button. It's very, very helpful. And for those of you on listening on podcast form, reminder, we do have the main Stochastic podcast channel, and then we have it broken out for MLB, NBA, and NFL. We also have the Odd Shopper podcast that talks about overnight betting with Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks for both MLB and NBA. Monday through Friday, Eitan covers that on the weekend. So if you're out and about and don't want to be streaming on your phone, you can always just download 2 podcasts. I like to do that when I'm doing errands or walking the dog. All righty, game number 2, halfway through the slate already. We have Philadelphia at Memphis. So Philadelphia is probably going to rest somebody tonight, would be the speculation. They're 12.5-point favorites in Memphis. Embiid and Harris are each questionable with their various knee issues. Maxi's questionable with the hip issue. Bamba questionable with an illness. Philly last played on Thursday. They do play again tomorrow in San Antonio. They're 1.5 games behind the Pacers for the number 6 seed. And that's important because that gets them out of the play-in game. Memphis, we'll have to see who is actually available tonight. Bain and Conchar did not play last night. They're listed as doubtful. Jaren Jackson Jr. and Santi Aldama did not play last night. They're listed as questionable. Kennard and Clark did not play last night. They are listed as probable for today. It's a back-to-back and a 3 and 4. They did beat Detroit's 108-90 in Detroit last night here. How are you feeling about, let's just assume, let's talk about Embiid. One, this could be exciting for him finally healthy heading into the playoffs, knocking on wood. He's had obviously it was a knee injury, but he's had several over his 10-year career. But this is one where it's also given hhm time to heal up elsewhere with everything else with that long layoff. So this is probably as fresh as we've seen him coming into the mix here. How are you feeling about Embiid? Maxey, do you think somebody sits tonight? Well, let's pontificate on this one, since we'll know better for NBA Live before lock tonight. But here we're just kind of having some fun sketching things out.
So I think that's certainly within the realm and on the plate that Philly rests one or more guys. As of right now, Embiid looks like one of, if not the best contrarian play on the entire slate. There's other guys that are coming in with nice leverage, including Tyrese Maxey. There's another one, and I know people hate to hear this, but it's a type of thing where, and a big difference between MLB and NBA DFS is when you have one guy out in NBA DFS, it changes the entire construction of the slate. In MLB, that's just not the case. So when you've got guys like Tyrese Maxey that are truly questionable, Cade Cunningham, et cetera, it's really hard to say what's going to happen if, knowing there are so many scenarios that could play out. That said, as of right now, we've got these guys in. And if they're in, they come in with really nice leverage. There's some of just the best players on the slate. I would say if I were playing one lineup right now, Embiid is, doesn't come without risk right now, but he's a really, really intriguing piece in tournaments. 18% chance of being optimal, 10% ownership. I like plays like that.
Yeah, and that's, again, this is just us saying how to sort of read the slate, etc. For these. And it's, he can drop 50 fantasy points even in his limited 26, 27 minutes. It's going to be it could be a decision point. We'll have more on that later. But the answer also is, if these guys are sitting, that's going to put up a fair amount of usage for the other guys. Because again, Philadelphia doesn't want to win these games, right? Getting out of the play-in tournament is a real advantage here. It's kind of interesting to see Milwaukee having dropped their last three. They lost in Washington, they lost to Toronto, and they lost to Memphis. The three of the teams that are just have put a big old stamp on the season months ago and are mailing it in. There we go. This could be Glenn Rivers' best chance at getting Philadelphia to the finals. His effort this year, because what do you do with this information? Is Milwaukee going to flip the switch? The numbers look great when everybody's healthy. Their defense has improved under Rivers because he tweaked out. He went back to what last year, kind of what they were doing with the positioning of Lopez and Tentacuppo with regards to where they are on the court and not being so far away from the basket. You also have their amazing offensive efficiency, but they have dropped a ton of games, not just these last three. They have dropped a ton of winnable games when they had most of their players healthy. Are they a paper tiger, do you think?
Yeah, if that. I think Boston is they're going to walk to the finals in my eyes now. Milwaukee, I'm not, they're on paper good, but not as good as Boston, and clearly they haven't played as well as the Celtics this entire year. Philly, we'll see how healthy Embiid can be in a 7-game series when that starts, etc. Cleveland has fallen off. The Knicks won't be healthy. Miami's always a threat, but I don't think they'll beat Boston again in a 7-game series. They might be the biggest threat right now, honestly, to me, Miami.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting to see. Most teams have 6 games left at this point, 6 or 7 after today. It'll be 6 for most of them. It's fun at this point of the year. Everything is set in the Eastern Conference. Well, we know the 10 teams that are at least going to be in the play-in tournament. We'll talk about Atlanta. They have a chance to move into the number 9 seed over Chicago. So the important thing about the play-in tournament is 9 hosts 10. So if you're 10 and you want to make it into the 8 seed, you have to win 2 road games. 9, you've got to win 2 games, but you get one of the first one at home, and then the 7-8, whoever loses that, is hosting. Whatever happens in that other game. So they're in a 1 game sample size. Home court is kind of dramatic in this one. So it's fascinating to see how this is going to shape up. Back to the present day, the game at hand here. On the other side is who is intriguing you if anybody from the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, if Jaren Jackson plays, obviously he's going to be a prime option. But how do you feel about Gigi Jackson or Goodwin, Scottie Pippen Jr., et cetera, et cetera?
If presuming he's out, and right now I believe we have him in. I think, yeah, we have him in right now. I have no idea if he's going to play or not. If he's out, I think we get to a similar situation like we did last night where Jamison looks really good. Malzinha Pereira all of a sudden becomes in play. I mean, this team is ugly. I can't remember the last time I did an NBA slate and Memphis wasn't on it. Yay me. So this team is so ugly. I have never seen a team in any sport really be so decimated by injuries. I mean, most of the guys that are playing for them right now, like, wouldn't have even been in like fringe rotation pieces if they were healthy. So just an interesting dynamic here. You do have guys like Jordan Goodwin that look just inarguably good, cog in the machine types. Like, I don't think that Goodwin is going to put up a score that you're going to need to win tournaments, but his price just works at 5,100. You know he's going to get good run. The more guys that are out, the more I like him. If Triple J is out, start to look at like the Jake Laravias. I mentioned Pereira, Lamar Stevens. So if Jaren Jackson is out, that's where a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith falls off a little bit for me.
No, and that makes sense. And funny, kind of calling back to how I said I had capped my Memphis players at 40%. I don't think I would have gotten much Pereira at all, and he was someone I was not even considering. But that's let the magic of the Sims tool help out, or whichever DFS tools you're using here. So I was just back to the Sims tool here. You can do specific ROI boosts for players. And maneuver things around. What this is doing is that's an ROI boost. It's not changing their projections. You don't have to rerun anything. It's just saying, hey, the expected value of this play is going higher, right? So when boosting the ROI, it's taking into account things that doesn't mean the projection has to change, but the outcome is very favorable for them, or it's just putting your thumb on the scale for one particular player. And sometimes you need to put this up to 100 to move the needle, which is showing you maybe forcing in someone that you don't really want. And sometimes just giving it a click of 5 or 10% makes somebody go all the way up to whatever your cap is. So that would probably happen with someone like Contavious Caldwell-Pope, because he is very high already. So you can just play around with that and have some fun here. Anything else from game number 2? This is the one where tune into Live Before Lock tonight, because that's when we'll have full information to be able to speak to this. But anything else you'd like to mention for game 2 of our 3-game slate?
That is all I got.
All righty. Well, we've talked a little bit about Sleeper and the $500 deposit match. I want to remind everybody that we do have, while we are showing the Sims here, we do have the lineup generator. And the lineup generator is essentially Sims Lite. It is based on all the tools that we use here at Stochastic, including the leverage, the boom bust, player projections, popularity, etc. It's built off the same engine that runs the Sims. And what it does is it selects good lineups for you. So it runs 10,000 plus lineups. They're all positive expected value. And what that's doing is that's getting rid of the bad lineups on the bottom. So even if you're using a lineup cruncher or a lineup generator or any optimizer, the optimizers are not necessarily getting rid of the bad lineups. That's why you need to think about sorting them, adjusting things, accounting for the ownership, etc. The lineup generator does all of that for you. So it's a very slick tool that is very, very helpful, and it's rather affordable. It also gets you access to the Discord as well. So check that out. That is the Stochastic Lineup Generator. I will put that on the screen here in just a sec. I'm going to hand this last game of the night here over to Matt. We have, let me see here. I went too far down in my run sheet. The Atlanta Hawks at the Denver Nuggets. The Hawks are 12-point underdogs here. Denver is, this total is 221.5. Atlanta will be without Trae Young. He is getting closer to a return, but not yet. Onyeka Okongwu is still out. This is a 3-4 for Atlanta, though they did not play last night. As I mentioned, they are one game behind Chicago for the number 9 seed. Denver has Jamal Murray listed as questionable. He's missed the last 7 games with an ankle issue. Gordon and Jokic are probable. Denver's playoff picture, they are tied with Minnesota, but they do not have the tiebreaker, and they are 1 game ahead of OKC. So still an important game. Most important for Denver is to have everybody healthy, but I suspect they'll be going for it tonight. Assuming that we get their regular lineup. I don't think Murray's going to play. So no Murray on Murray battle here, but we should at least see a couple teams that have incentive to win for this one. How are you feeling about Atlanta here?
I really, really like Atlanta here in tournaments. They might be my favorite team on the slate because they're not projected for a ton of ownership, and I get it. It's a really tough spot, but we don't have other really good options on this slate. And I think this is the type of slate where it's more than fine to take risks on a tough spot, knowing that Atlanta's production is pretty cornered between DeJounte Murray, Jalen Johnson, Bogdanovich, DeAndre Hunter to a certain extent. But really, Murray and Jalen Johnson, 2 guys I'm very high on today. Murray especially, coming in with nice leverage. 16% chance of being optimal, 11% ownership. He's been phenomenal. I know that it's coming off a rough game against Dallas last time out, but Atlanta needs wins, or they're still playing, so they don't have to go on the road in that playing game, even though they probably will. And this team has played up against Boston a couple times recently. They didn't play yesterday, as you mentioned. Always would rather have the first game of a back-to-back be in Denver rather than the latter. So I like Atlanta here a lot. You've got Okongwu coming in with a lot of leverage. Like, not only do I like them, the field is not getting here. So I'm high on Atlanta in this spot, knowing it's risky because Denver's really good. But I like this whole game, to be quite honest. Like, this is my favorite game on the slate, and I don't even think it's close.
I would totally agree. We have seen DeJounte Murray go University of Washington Huskies. As an alum, he is one of the few bright spots we have there because God forbid the basketball program ever make the NCAA tournament. Since I have moved out to Virginia, and now I've moved to Florida. So since I have left Seattle, it's been like almost 17 years now, I think they've made the NCAA tournament 3 times.
I know they made it with Fultz, right? Maybe the last one they made it at some point where it was just they were lucky to be there. The last one I remember was like Nate Robinson, and that was good God, like 20 years ago. So they don't ever go to the big dance. It's just horrible rooting for a team like that. How crazy is it that they've been into the college football playoffs twice, including the national title game? In the last 10 years and not made the 64/68 teams. Oh, horrible. But without Trae Young, he is just piling up the fantasy points. I think Young has been out now for 18 games or 19 games. It's something crazy like that. It was a lot longer than I expected to see, but you're just seeing Murray with heavy, DeJounte, that is, with heavy minutes. His rebound numbers have ticked up a little bit, but he is getting all the shots.
He is taking almost 10 3-pointers per game in this stretch. He's shooting around 40%, which is very nice. He's still getting his steals. He's getting a ton of assists. The ball goes through his hands on almost every possession. It's a phenomenal situation for him right now, and he's almost in the raw points conversation. Depending on what happens with the availability of the Philadelphia players, he could elevate into a top 3 projected guy there along with Jokic. And that's something that's important to note when we have these short slates is you got to get the fantasy points. You got to build that base from somewhere. So he's kind of interesting for me. How do you feel about Capella, Bruno Fernando, anybody from the front court here? Jalen Johnson, he's back and seems to be healthy, which is fun for DFS purposes.
I like him a lot. Capella would be the center I like the most. He's obviously the most expensive. I don't mind any pieces from Atlanta, but my 2 favorite are definitely Murray and Jalen Johnson. Bogdanovich the third. I think the big men are in play, but not like priorities for me because also I must have missed that. Yeah, I like that. I also like DeAndre Hunter, who I've shouted out a couple times, but 13% chance being optimal, 6% ownership. Those numbers might change as the slate goes on, but I like that a lot. Even a guy like Kobe Buffkin. I mean, I don't love it. He only projects for 12.5 fantasy points, but he's got a 12% chance of being optimal. That just shows you what type of slate it is. Going back to your Huskies, though, I was thinking about some white center who I couldn't remember his name, and it was Spencer Hawes.
Spencer Hawes, yeah.
In figuring that out, it's funny. Washington hasn't had a lot of college success, you're right, but they do have a nice NBA alumni. Like
they really do. Which is just shocking. Hawes,
they really do. Like,
and I want to say, was it Webster? I can't, or Williams. Anyway, both of them made the NBA. They played on the same high school team that didn't even make the state playoffs either their junior or senior year.
Or Martell Webster?
Yeah, Martell Webster.
Yeah.
He and Hawes played together, and they didn't make the state tournament one of the years.
That's crazy.
I forget if it was their junior or senior. It's just like, how are you guys not walking away with that title? Because it's not like, I mean, the Washington basketball is adequate in the state, but they weren't even in the largest classification either.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oy, good times. But yeah, there's been a lot of Brandon Roy.
Oh yeah, he's up there. Isaiah Thomas, obviously.
Isaiah Thomas, Nate Robinson,
Terrence Ross,
Tony Roten. There's a Phillies or a 76ers connection. Haas played for them. Roten played for them.
Isaiah Stewart.
Oh, he is Washington, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
I never think of that. I always
I know.
I have him as I think it's because it's in my brain. The Stewart twins played for USC, like back when Nate Robinson was that era of college basketball. I think my mind just goes and assigns him to the Trojans, because let's just say living out on the East Coast, it's impossible to watch Husky basketball because the Pac-12 network, RIP to that, but it doesn't exist out here. You can't even buy the games online, so I kind of stopped watching once I moved out here. All right, so we'll talk about Denver here in just a second and wrap things up. But I want to show you guys. I've got the lineup generator here. I made 20 lineups. Fun features here. You mentioned Kobe Buffkin. We can click on Buffkin and it'll pop his 3 lineups up here to the top. If we don't like the way something looks, like we say, you know what, I don't want to have DeJounte Murray in this lineup with Buffkin. You can replace him. You just have to do a little mental math to see what you have left. We can replace him with Maxey, and it'll make that swap. So you can change things like that. You can decide, hey, I don't like a lineup. You can get rid of it. We can discard that one. Maybe we don't like this one here. We can discard that, and then we can say, oh, let's go build me some more lineups. So we can save the next couple here. It'll take us back to our holding pin, and we can look at the different player portfolio mix, etc. So this is a lot of fun. Gets all of the key metrics up here for you: projected fantasy points, what the combinatorial ownership is here on that. So this is a fun tool. It's a lot of fun for football as well. I really enjoyed doing this because you can set up different stacks and things of that nature. You can also look, it doesn't matter. Sorry, that's the wrong sport here. But if you go back to the beginning, you can choose some of the settings here. So let's just do FanDuel main. You can pick all types of lineups, chalky, contrarian, etc. And then you can lock in up to one player if you would like. So if you said, hey, I got a feeling about Jalen Johnson, we can lock him in and then just build out a whole bunch of lineups here that have Jalen Johnson in it. So pretty slick. That is the lineup generator. Okay, let's hit the Denver side here. If Jokic plays, which we expect him to, he is phenomenal. Triple-double is incoming. How are you feeling about the raw points? What does he need to get to make you sad that you didn't roster him? 55, 60, 65? What's the cutoff?
It's tough to say just because the context of the slate don't really know yet. Like, does Embiid play? You know what I mean? Like, all that stuff. Off the top of my head, probably say that I would be mad I didn't play him 60 plus on a slate like this, just because I think the raw points matter a lot. I like this game quite a bit. The more I look at it, the only way you can play Embiid over Jokic is because of ownership. Like, on paper, it's not close, except I guess if Maxey is out and Embiid, we get like he's going to play his full workload or something like that, but I don't see it. Matchup with Atlanta, no Jamal Murray. I like this entire game. In liking this game, of course, I like Jokic. He's obviously the best piece of Denver. He's not the only piece of Denver I like, though. MPJ, Aaron Gordon, both guys wildly in play. KCP, fine filler piece, kind of in the mold of Dorian Finney-Smith. Denver, I like quite a bit here. Peyton Watson, looking similar to Kobe Buffkin, projecting for close to 15 fantasy points, but optimal 22% of the time this slate plays out. Yes, please.
Where, and this is going back to the first game. Where does Trenton Watford appear in the tools? If you have that,
find him, I do. So he's coming in with really nice leverage. He doesn't project amazing. 4,600 projects for a little bit over 19 fantasy points, but optimal 18% of the time, only 10% ownership. So he's right there with those guys.
That was someone I have on my short list from when I was looking at things this morning. So, of course, we got to wait and see where everything lands with all of the news, et cetera, et cetera. I see Nick, a longtime viewer, saying, hey, this should be an MLB show or a UFC show. There's not much for basketball. Well, I just dropped into chat there the MMA show, which has already been recorded by Greg. So you guys can get that right after we log off here. And then there will be MLB Live Before Lock at noon today. So you are going to get Mr. Ehrenberg and Fantasy Tips Matt. Not sure who that guy is. That's kind of a weak sauce Twitter name. But anyway, that fella is going to be on with Greg. So you guys can check that out. And then, of course, we have NBA Live Before Lock tonight. Once we have more information, that will be at 5 o'clock here. The games go off at, I think they're, 6, 7, and 8 or something along those lines. They're relatively nicely staggered. I have that up here. Yeah, they're at, 7, 8, and 9. So I'm guessing what they meant to say is we will be on Live Before Lock probably at 6, but I will confirm that. Things get a little wonky here as the weekend schedule it's far different this year than it has been in the past. Especially on Sundays, we have a lot more Live Before Lock starting at 5 o'clock with the NBA kind of pushing their games earlier across the board on Sundays, which is interesting to see. But in any event, final thoughts for today?
No, just what you were saying, like the weekend and the sports merging is an interesting combo.
It is. Lots of moving parts. Baseball's kind of doing 2 main slates. They've got a 1 o'clock and then again at 7 o'clock tonight. And both of them, I think, are 6+ games. So That should be fun. But you guys can follow Matt on Twitter at Fantasy Tips Matt. Hey, wait a second. You're that guy. Oh, okay. That's sketchy. You can find me at EMac DFS, and of course, it is stochastic_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.